no!
Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, and this is another episode of The Next Level, in which I have a guest co-host, and together we discuss the interview of the week and pick out a few highlights to talk about to help translate them into some specific tactical strategies for you to use for your own business to bring it to the next level. Before I introduce today's guest co-host, I want to mention last week's interviews. And on Monday, April 20th, I had planner designer Brian Raffanelli talking about his response to dealing with the impact of the current pandemic. It was really very interesting. Brian is real popular on the show. And then on Wednesday, the 22nd, I had Sean Lowe, who has the business of being creative. Sean is a wonderful consultant, and he was talking about what he feels we should be thinking about during this difficult time. So highly recommend you check out both shows from last week. And so today's guest co-host is Nayri Kalayjian, wedding fashion expert with Lovella Bridal. Nayri is also a best-selling author, celebrity stylist, and she coaches and educates and has a series of wonderful online courses. Welcome, Nayri.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I so appreciate you doing this today with me. Thank you.
Of course. I'm so excited.
So today's guest who Nayri and I are going to talk about is none other than Monty Durham, a very successful fashion expert and one of the stars of TLC's Say Yes to the Dress Atlanta, where he had been the fashion director at Bridals by Lori, the South's premier bridal salon. Monty is quite a personality. He's wonderful, isn't he, Nayri? You said something about knowing him or meeting him way back, something like that?
Yes. So Monty used to be, and what she says in the interview, he used to be a designer representative that would go to trunk shows. He would travel to different stores across the globe and do trunk shows. So he used to come to our store back in the day. So I've known Monty a very long time.
That is so cool. That's really neat. So, in terms of some of the highlights of the interview, right near the beginning, he was talking about how one of the biggest challenges with dressing anyone, a bride, is acquiring their trust. And I would think that you know a whole lot about that as well.
Absolutely. People have to like and trust you before they opt in to purchase something from you. And when you're selling a wedding dress, you typically, on average, are with that client for an hour. So I have to be likable, I have to be trustable, and I have to show that and earn that trust in less than 15 to 20 minutes in the beginning of this appointment so that this can ultimately result in a win-win, which would be the bride finding her dress and Lovella making the sale or the stylist making the sale.
Geez, that's such a challenge. Do you have any techniques that you use? Like how do you think about that when you first meet somebody? How do you get their trust so quickly?
Absolutely. I mean, I have so many different tactics and methods, but one of which is I actually don't talk a lot. I ask questions when I do need to speak. I spend most of my time watching their behavior and listening, and then I build trust by delivering the product. So I don't tell them how long I've been doing it or why I'm so amazing. I ask questions, I listen, I deliver the dress, and all of a sudden when I deliver that product and I find them their gown, I've earned their trust. And typically it happens within the first 30 minutes. Which is kind of wild, but that's how I do it. I just show it to them.
It's funny. This makes me think about when I'm dealing with my clients with my music and entertainment business. And I didn't do this for the longest time, but I got to the point where eventually, even just on the phone, I kind of had this, I would feel like I'm already their friends. And so when I'd get them on the phone or meet them in person, I would just totally let my person, just totally be me, very casual, very fun. And I found that people really respond well to that,
They do. And they respond well to confidence and the way in which you behave. So less about what you say and more about what you're doing and your tone. And when you are talking, that you're very matter of factly, you know what you're talking about. You're confident. You're a true expert. People crave that. I think that we're in a world where, well, not I think, I know that we're in a world of Google, right? Everybody wants everything right now, and everybody thinks they're the master of everything because you could just Google the answer or teach yourself how to do it.
That's right.
So when people come in, they have a wall up, and in which I have to really bring that wall down, earn their trust, and show them that I am an expert. And so the way I start, the way I introduce myself, the energy, my body language, all of this has to do with me earning trust.
Also, he talked too about how location sets the tone in terms of, picking the style of dress. How do you feel about that?
To some degree, I agree with that. So I do think that your location and your venue does set a huge tone for your wedding. He mentions that, the dress doesn't necessarily set the tone, and you should really consider the dress to the venue that you're attending. And I did agree with the part where he said, you really want to think about traveling with your dress. However, I have lots of clients who will buy a huge ball gown, something over the top, and travel with it. And in the back of my mind, I think, oh my gosh, this is going to be a journey to travel with. At the same time, I actually tell them that while they're purchasing. So they're purchasing knowing, okay, this is not going to be the easiest thing to travel with. However, for me, I believe that every bride deserves to be in a gown that she feels the most beautiful in. So if you feel the most beautiful in an extremely over-the-top ball gown, and you're going to get on an airplane and travel across the globe to get to your wedding venue, you deserve to wear that. So to some extent, yes, you can consider your location, you can consider the weather, you can consider the time of year. But if you want to wear a long sleeve dress in the middle of summer, by all means, if that's your dream and that's what makes you feel beautiful, I believe everyone, man or woman, no matter what you're doing, I believe you deserve to do things that make you feel good and make you feel beautiful.
Also, it's interesting that when Monty was talking about, the look, he mentioned too that you want to also think about, not that it's the only decision maker, but thinking about what looks really good from the waist to the shoulders, because that's what's going to show the most in photos. And I was thinking about, I see photos of full dress, but yeah, there is also these other many photos that are from waist up. And I'm thinking he's also very aware of this being, on TV and all of that. What do you think about that?
I completely agree. So I actually made a video on this on my YouTube channel for brides, because we had so many brides coming in asking for a low back wedding dress and fixated on the back of the dress, the big train and all of that. And at some point, I always have to interrupt them in the middle of the appointment and say, okay, I know that we want this gorgeous back, but most of your photos are from the waist up. So fine, you can have this gorgeous back that you want, but at the same time, we need to be focused on the front of it, because you can love the back, but if you don't love the front, most of your photos are from the front.
Right.
So he is 100% accurate on that. And a lot of our brides get super, super laser focused on a low back drama, big train, big veil. And in the back of my head, I'm like, you're only going to have really a few photos of that. That's not going to be the bulk of your images.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Also, it's funny, when I was getting ready to interview him, I wanted it to be fresh in my mind, and I watched some episodes of Say Yes to the Dress, on TLC Atlanta, and the drama with the entourage that some of these women bring. That's what, like, a big part of what makes the show, and how he deals with that, and Lori also. But, I was asking him about that. And, as you know from the interview, he said that it's really best, if you can, to just bring your mother or a best friend and come in on a weeknight, when it's not crowded, and how it's such a great opportunity to bond through that experience.
It really is. And I tell, and it's interesting because I usually don't even specify who they should bring, because perhaps the mother is the one that's actually not going to agree with what the bride picks. So there can be a lot of tension there too. I think that it's important. What I tell my brides is choose individuals to bring with you that truly understand your vision and are going to support you. Because at the end of the day, you, and Monty mentioned this too, the jealous friend that, you're getting married before her. She may be older than you, or you're the younger sister. And I chuckled when I heard him say that, because it's true. And we limit one glass of champagne per customer, because when they get alcohol in their system,
oh no,
the opinions get going. And so I agree. My advice to any bride is typically bring in the people that truly understand your vision. Once you pick your dress, if you feel that you need more people to be a part of that decision, you can bring them back and say, hey, everybody, I found my dress. This is it. Because then at that point, they would need to be super nasty and mean to say something negative.
Right. Oh, I am imagining you must have seen it all in your experience.
I have. I've seen it all. And everyone, for the most part, is pretty supportive nowadays because I find it interesting that for our demographic in California, brides are a little bit older. So, they're career women. They have their lives together. There isn't too much, they don't have too much time for drama.
Yeah.
So I think that back in the day, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, some people were younger. They weren't waiting as long to get married. There'd be a little bit more drama that you'd get. But we're at a point now where our brides really don't have the time for it. However, that doesn't stop their entourage.
Oh, God. What about bridesmaids' dresses, Nayri? I mean, isn't that a whole nother end of this whole thing? How do you deal with what have you seen with that?
Yeah, so we actually no longer do bridesmaids. But when we did do bridesmaids, it's hard. Bridesmaids are so difficult to pick their dresses because you're giving them one dress.
Yeah, right. That's supposed to fit all. Yeah.
And that's not the case. I'll never forget, I was once a bridesmaid and the bride wanted everybody's hair pulled back. I looked awful. I looked horrible in all the photos. And it's not about me, so it's fine. But at the end of the day, it's a little bit of an unrealistic thing to expect that every single one of your bridesmaids are going to be happy. And Monty even says they're never going to wear the dress again. They're not. Don't even try to justify the cost. And I used to be that person that would say, oh, yeah, this is a style you could wear again. Yeah, no. It's not even a thing.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Well, and it's going to be so interesting watching Monty too. You know how he talked about he's opening a new hair salon in Alexandria, Virginia, and talking about possibility of a reality show. There's going to be a lot coming up in the future with him. This is going to really be fun, isn't it?
Yes, I was so excited when I saw the advertisings for him to be on Say Yes the Dress, because even when Monty was in our store, and we would do trunk show weekends together, I would be laughing. He is hysterical and such a great personality. He is so full of life, so gracious and loving and kind. And I really, really adore him and feel honored that I've had the ability to get to know him at such a young age and work alongside him while styling brides. I mean, it's a pretty huge thing to say that.
Yeah, that's cool. And he's so charismatic. And it's interesting how he was saying, if you remember in the interview, that when he first got on the show, he was just had no idea what to do, what to say. And he was very just kind of talking like this. It's so hard to imagine him being like that. He has such a big personality.
It is. He does. But the thing is that when those cameras are on, and I've done a lot of camera work too, you freeze up. You're not your normal self for a minute, especially if you're new to it, because all of a sudden there's lights, there's camera people, there's sound checks, there's, okay, now everybody start this here, but then it's supposed to be organic, which it is, but it's not at the same time. So until you get to the point where you can do things and just don't even sense the cameras, then you start to fully, but it takes a minute to adjust. It really does.
I'll bet it does. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Nayri, I want to thank you so much for being on the show and helping out with this episode. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, and so that people can find you, Nayri has 2 websites. Go to weddingfashionexpert.com. Again, weddingfashionexpert.com. Also, Lovella Bridal. That's LOVELLA bridal.com. All of this will be in the show notes. And you can find her on social media at Wedding Fashion Expert and at Lovella Bridal and also at Lovella Plus. Again, all of this is going to be in the show notes. And to find Monty, be sure to check him out on Facebook and Twitter at Monty Durham. And on Instagram, it's The Real Monty Durham. And again, all of this is in the show notes. And thanks for listening to The Wedding Biz, and we'll catch you all next week.